Just want to check if I'm recording. Just to introduce myself, my name is Harikrishna. I'm part of the data science team, data science club at UT Dallas. And the data science club is basically focused on creating data science professionals. We try to conduct events which help you become a better data scientist, data analyst, BI analyst. Even though there's like a lot of overlap with respect to concepts, um, it's always good to know how things happen in the background. So that's what we'll be focusing on as a club. But today's workshop is just going to be on resume and how to build your portfolio and how to apply for jobs. Okay. And one disclaimer which I have is like this is not like there's no short what do you say workflow associated with this process. It's all a hit and run kind of situation. So you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt, but try to do this as much as possible. And I've seen that this helps a lot. So yeah, this is just a brief agenda which I had in mind that we could go over. First is like, how do you build your resume? What are the different sections in your resume which are very important? Uh, why your resume is really important? And everything else is secondary, to be honest. Okay, when it comes to your portfolio. GitHub, Kaggle, website, Medium, all of these things are all secondary. Even LinkedIn is kind of there, but LinkedIn takes up only 20% of your concentration. 70% should be your resume, 20% LinkedIn, 10% is the rest. That is the brief or the distribution I always keep in mind, and which is what resonates with a lot of recruiters. And we'll talk about like how you should be applying, what is the course of action you should be taking. And we'll also talk about how you can build a portfolio and what are the things you should avoid while building a portfolio. Uh, yeah, this is just what you'll be thinking over. And if we have some time, we can also discuss uh, basically fine tune on what you would like to do and how this can fit into your portfolio as a whole. So yeah, the first one is like resume. Nothing beats a resume. Everything else is secondary. Your LinkedIn is secondary. Your websites are secondary. The first and foremost thing is that you should be working on your resume. Most of you already have resumes because you applied for school here. You don't have to feel that you're starting from scratch. Just build upon that. That is like one of the biggest problems, not problems essentially, one of the biggest queries I've gotten that, I have to start working on my resume and I see students procrastinating over that and they never actually work on their resume. They just keep it for tomorrow and worried about their subjects. But you should have a proper resume. And these are just certain things I've seen that help. LinkedIn has become a new thing, like having a good LinkedIn profile, keeping it active, making sure you use the right hashtags, be in the proper groups, interact in the proper comments. It's not just you putting your email ID, say, in certain comments which have, these things like I've seen posts where they kind of promise that they have this Excel sheet with 50 job postings, and people just post their, emails there, and that looks bad for a recruiter. So if you're reaching out to a recruiter, it looks bad for them. We'll come back to this point again. But keeping your LinkedIn active in a good way is something that has become really important, and especially when you're reaching out over LinkedIn. Uh, uh, Personal portfolio website, you don't get a lot of hits, but it's good to have. It shows that you know HTML and stuff like that. Or you just know you've gone out of your way to do it. GitHub, Tableau Public, Kaggle, and Medium, these are all like tertiary things that been popping up. GitHub especially is because a lot of software engineers use GitHub to show their coding proficiency and consistency. Uh, so that is kind of translated into being a data scientist as well. That's why we kind of have to keep these in mind. Okay. So one of the biggest mistakes I see when it comes to resume is they're very bogged down on which format you should use. Right off the bat, you can use the JSON format. You can use any other normal format, which looks essentially just like a bunch of words. This format that I mentioned here, it has lines. That's why I kind of refrain from using it. But the JSON format works. Don't use colorful resumes essentially while you are applying for jobs. The reason for this is because of the ATS software. The ATS software works on this PDF parser, which essentially tries to extract words from your resume and creates like a word map and ranks your resume in comparison to everyone else. And these things don't do well. It can't parse all the OCR formats properly. That's why it's not good. Even like you can see here, coding proficiency, it's like 4.5. It makes no sense for a recruiter to look at this. So that's why try to avoid this. Try to avoid pictures, QR codes, bubble maps, icons of like, phone, uh, LinkedIn, and all that stuff. Try to avoid all of these things. Keep it as simple as possible and maintain it to one page. Having a one-page resume, I feel 90% of the time works. You don't need a resume more than a page. And, yeah, we'll talk about how to make it one page in the next slides, but you can have a two-page resume if you have publications. Okay, because your publication takes up a good chunk of space and you have to explain your publication. But the resumes I see 90% of the time they can be fit in one page. People have to please keep that in mind. QR codes, I mentioned QR codes before, but you can use QR codes only when you're applying, when you have like physical job fairs, or you're going to a company and meeting the manager there. That's when you can have QR codes. And I'll talk about QR codes in the next slide. But yeah, again, use the JSON format. Might sound like this old professor from CMC right now, but JSON format works. So this format is, I feel, works a lot. And this is the format I kind of force upon on a lot of people whoever I talk to. So this is under the assumption that you've done one internship. Okay. This QR code basically links you to like a dummy, what is that, resume that I built for Popeye the Sailor Man. You can use this just to understand how your resume should be built. So professional experience should, if you are worked in corporate, professional experience is key. It doesn't matter where you work, what you worked at, is it relevant, is it not relevant? All of those things don't matter. Professional experience should be on top. A lot of people say that, I'm a student right now. Chronologically, my last thing is basically that I'm studying. So that's why that should be on top. No, professional experience is on top. Because once a recruiter basically looks at your resume, either in the digital format or in the physical format, once they go past your name, which is essentially one small part of your talk, they will look at if you have corporate experience or not. And we'll talk about how the bullet should be the corporate experience, but having corporate experience or having some kind of experience as a founder or as an intern helps you show that you have understood how Scrum works and what is the other one? How Agile works and all of those things. So if you have worked for more than a year, even as an intern, your professional experience should take 1/3 of your revenue. That is important to show that you have worked in a corporate. I've been using corporate again and again, but it's very important that you show that you are a professional. You are not a out of the school student. Even if you're an intern as well, you have to show points associated that, I know how this thing works. You just have to get me in uh, Outlook is what you have to get. Another thing which I've seen is people use skills and they put it on top. Don't do that. Like, it makes no sense. Your academic projects and your professional experience should have all your skills. the skill section is what you use to capture the rest of the job description so that it passes through the ATS. So for example, Python could be one thing. You would have used Python in your academic projects, or you would have used R in your academic projects, or you would have used it in your professional experience. The ATS software is able to decipher where that word is being used. So mentioning it here makes no sense. It will mention it in skills and it'll be like, okay, he's just put it there. Mention it here, it ranks it higher. So that's why I kind of suggest this format as a whole. Empty spaces is one thing which I've noticed in a lot of resumes. Try to fill it as much as possible. I will talk more on empty spaces, but I always notice it from popping up in the academic projects and certifications, where a whole line gets used to specify one skill or one pure certificate. That's not good. Keep it continuous. Try to fill up the page as much as possible. Another thing which I've seen is summary, where you're trying to explain that I'm a data scientist with 3 years experience or an aspiring data enthusiast. Summary you should use when basically there's empty spaces at the end. If you don't have empty spaces, then don't include a summary. At the end, it kind of doesn't add value to your portfolio. You're using that as a filler, but summary you can keep it on top. That's fine because people always skip over it. Another thing which I've seen is sometimes you are a leader within your company. So you might be like a project lead, or you're a senior software engineer, or a senior engineer, senior marine engineer. That was one thing which I saw. They've mentioned it twice here. You shouldn't do that. Uh, Try to keep the chronology of the whole resume so that it makes sense. So if you're using leadership, it should be something that is outside your work. It could be a team activity that you have within the company. For example, you worked at Capital One. You were part of the volunteering team. Then that makes sense that it was like Capital One volunteering, blah, blah, blah. But if you use like lead analyst here and here, it looks wrong. So again, this was a problem which might sound like very menial like right now, but I've seen it like in 3, 4 resumes. So that's why I kind of emphasize on these things. So how should the title look like? Uh, Obviously, you know everything else. You know your name should be in big, your phone number, all of these things. Open to relocation is something that I've not seen as much. Try to include that. It shows to the recruiter that you're essentially not bogged down by geography. Another thing which I've seen is people, when they mention their location, they mention Richardson, especially when I see UTD resume. Don't mention Richardson. Richardson is not a well-known town. Dallas is. Use the closest metro city that is closest to wherever you live to signify what locality you're in. You don't have to mention like what is that, zip codes and stuff like that. Dallas, Texas, here you are, whatever it is. That's really enough. Another theme which I've seen is when you mention your LinkedIn, your GitHub, or any other links, people always include HTTPS. Don't include HTTPS. It has to be in the format of the website.com/your username. That's all that you need. And after that, you select that whole link and then include your hyperlink into it. Because when you print a physical resume, like HTTPS does not add value and it takes up space. You have to keep it as concise as possible. And for a recruiter who's looking at your resume as a physical copy, they will only look at what comes after LinkedIn. So they will search that in the LinkedIn bar. You have to look at it in that point. The thing that you have to keep into consideration is whatever subtag that you use must be common among all the links that you use. So for example, your LinkedIn, your GitHub, your Kaggle, your Tableau, you can create these custom links. You have to make sure they are consistent throughout all the links that you include in your resume. What else? Yeah. Another thing people some of these, especially when you open a resume on your phone, the main link doesn't work. You can see it's not highlighted right now. So you should use this format. It says like mail to folder and then your email. So once you click on that, it opens up Gmail or mail. You have to make sure people keep forgetting this. That's very important. So this section is for your physical copy. And place this red mark here. So this is where your QR code should go. And my suggestion is you use Linktree. But if you don't have anything to put on a Linktree, then you use just put your LinkedIn in. Linktree, I don't know how many of you have used Linktree links or at least seen it. Like, you one. So like an overarching, like a lot of people have used it. It's essentially nothing much. You get like multiple links at once. You can have one as your resume, your LinkedIn, GitHub, whatever other links you want to include about yourself. Do not include like Instagram, Twitter, especially Twitter. I've seen people using. Don't include Twitter because sometimes you would have liked something and it becomes a whole thing. So yeah, again, I'm emphasizing on the point that one page is for job fairs. Include that link, and you can use the same QR code to create like custom like visiting cards. I've seen people don't accept resumes, especially when you talk to managers. So if you go to like JTMC's event, they'll not accept your resume because they don't have space, right? So having a visiting card with this QR code basically helps. You can pass on your QR code and say, I'd love to have a chat with you, and they give you their QR code, their visiting card. Your visiting card is of no use, to be honest. They're going to throw it away. Their visiting card is what is very important. So having that exchange, having this QR code in it basically helps a lot. Okay, so again, I've been emphasizing on this point. Chronology is very important. Make sure the dates line up. If you have a gap, try to mention you have a gap if you have space. But if you don't have space, then it's fine. Yeah, like before we move on to this section, I want to just ask, do you guys have any questions until now, whatever I talked about? Anything that you want to take pictures of, that you go back or something? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So for example, I have friends who are very engineers who work in petroleum. With them as well, I talk about that professional experience should be on top. And just that the points and the bullets within that professional experience has to be adhered to a data science. So we'll talk about that as well. That's in the subsequent points, but the professional experience should be on top. Even as an intern, right? Sometimes you're like sales and marketing intern. You have to emphasize those things on top of it. Any other questions? Yeah.
What about when you have professional experience like 2 years ago, you still
So my personal opinion, yes. So unless and until no, I think you should put it up. So maybe for example, in my case, I've been here 2 years. But my last professional experience in 2022, I still keep it on top. Because I feel that the points that are present on top are relevant to what we're doing. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
being? Do you put any on
So it's a subjective thing. So if you work for less than 1 year, then you put your TA in your work experience. And you mention points that are relevant to your curriculum. Don't say that you graded papers. You basically emphasize that the point that you assisted in teaching, grading, boosting marks. Something of that sort. Uh, a class of 60 individuals. Something you have to basically find it that way. But if you are working, let's say in dining, if there is space, put it in leadership, it's not good. How many academic what should be related to so do you mind if I get back to that point? There's a slide about it. Okay. So there's a big no-no when it comes to academic projects. We'll talk about that. Okay. Yeah.
like feelings as a senior something, but now for data science data engineer roles. So that like that roles which I had like say software engineer and all that should be changed to data science or I should keep it but the bullet points would be should be inclined to the data science field. So,
We'll talk about that.
okay.
Okay. So, um, I have another set of, I have another designated time for another set of questions. We'll discuss that there, but your point we'll talk about. So this is mostly for work experience, academic project, and leadership. Lot of this is where your whole resume should be like really eye-catching. Okay. So you should include like numbers and really powerful, what is that, action verbs and stuff like that. But before that, I feel people get the section very wrong most of the time. So, for example, this is like a professional experience example that I put in here. First thing is your the company which you work in, the location, and the role that you did have to be in different formats. They come under the same umbrella when you download the format, but you have to make sure it's in that format. When it comes to the role that you did, for example, you worked as a senior software engineer, right? Sure, you would have done some sort of statistics there, right? Like some a little bit at least. This is an unethical hack, but you make sure that you write senior software engineer, comma data science, or hyphen data science. So that helps with so that helps a little, but not as much. The points have to be very data sciencey. We'll come to that in the next slide. Uh, but the overall structure should look like this. You can have 3 points in each: work experience or academic projects or leadership. Work experience for people who have experience. Leadership and academic projects for people who don't have experience. Okay, that's very important. You have to keep this format. You have to have at least 2 points or 3 points. Okay, 2 points is standard. 3 points is pushing it. Let's say you work for like 4 years in that company. That's when you put 4 points, three or 4 points. Each point should be 2 lines. This is something I've seen. Your first point should be 2 lines, and your second point can be 1 line, but try to keep it 2 lines. Your first point is what basically grabs the attention of the person who's looking at it. It should include numbers. It should include. Uh, so actually, let me open up one website. Um, so this website I kind of use on a regular basis. The same action verbs that you see in whatever classes you have taken, but your first point should use action verbs and categories that are really like empowering in nature to what you did. It should look like you created the new Facebook. Okay. So you use like really strong action verbs in your first point, and you use very humble action verbs in your second point. Okay. So the first one should be like, you brought in 20 million, the 20 million USD of revenue, something of that sort. Even though you did, it should sound like that. The second point should be, this is because, I was working and, I basically developed this pipeline which helped identify certain customers. That's how it should look. Even when it comes to people who are not of relevant experience, uh, I think one example which keeps popping up to my mind is I had a friend who worked in a petroleum distribution center. It's essentially like a hub for each metro, and you send out tankers from there to each pump. So what he did was he was basically a safety officer. His important thing was that he managed around 200 trucks on a daily basis. And the quantum of petroleum products that used to go out was in like thousands of liters, thousands of gallons. Those points should come in your first point. The second point is if you use words like Six Sigma, like optimization, or you use tools like Excel and you use Tableau or something of that sort. Okay, so this website I feel is a little useful. Keep that in mind. You can just Google MIT action words and that website pops up. So, and your second point should also have the tools that you use. Okay. So you either could have another point called tools and emphasize on the tools, but I feel having tools within the second point is very useful. So you use terms such as like scikit-learn, Python, and uh, yeah, scikit-learn, Python, and H2O, deep learning, TensorFlow, all that kind of stuff. Another thing is I noticed that points sometimes have only one word or two words here. There's so much empty space. Fill in your points such that it crosses the two-third mark or mark of the page. That's one important thing. Um, when it comes to academic projects, right? Basically, the same structure changes. You you use the project name here, and you use the professor who peer reviewed it. That shows more legitimate. Like it basically makes it more legitimate when it comes to your projects. You don't have to specify timelines with respect to project. That's fine. And when it comes to projects, sometimes having another point called tools is useful. Uh, don't have single line points. Again, I'm emphasizing on this point again and again because it looks bad. Um, then you kind of, the unethical way of doing it is mention like a club at school. Or you can just write Naveen Jindal full of management. Because yeah, you've done it here, right? Okay. So yeah, this is important. This is structure of a bullet. Uh, just one before I start this. Is this session a little boring or something? Should I change the format of the session? We'll have a live demo as well after this, but is this fine till now? Everyone's able to grasp, the way I talk, my accent, all of those things. All good. Okay. Okay. So I've divided it into 2 points. So the first point and the second point. Okay. So there's this format that you would learn in your professional development course or any kind of course related to how to deal with interviews called the STAR format. STAR format is like situation, task, action, result, or something. You don't adhere by your STAR format when you're creating these bullets. Okay. Because you are not explaining the project. You're showing what you did. That's like the biggest problem which I see with resumes. Everyone kind of explains that, oh, I took this data first and then I built this model, cleaned the model, did EDA, put the model in, and then I got accuracy of 93%. No, 93% that's what you should start with. Build a model with 93% accuracy on data to solve, let's say, like prediction of disease or something of that sort, using modern machine learning techniques such as that's how your point should look like. That's how you should start. And the second point basically talks about what you did in that project. So that's how like these 2 points basically gel up to become one proper sandwich. Okay. Again, it should start here. The example is it starts with the result, contribute to 20% increase in overall operational efficiency. So the result should start with the result, then move on to the situation, and then end with the action. Okay. This is the format I feel conveys and is really loved by recruiters. And also, your resume becomes a huge talking point in your interview. The first 20 minutes of an hour interview is just looking at your resume. So having it in this format basically creates a conversation. One of the recent interviews I had was like basically what had happened was I left out key components like willingly inside the document, inside my resume. Because they asked, oh, you increased revenue by so much. How did you do that? That creates a conversation. And again, you can use that conversation to show your technical prowess and also show how you can improve it from what you learned in graduate study. So yeah, it's basically selling yourself and selling your the project that you do. Most important part. So having this format, I feel helps a lot. And again, action words, as I mentioned, the first action word should be really strong. The second action word should show cooperativeness and how you led a team, and it should be very humble. And that's where you basically include you use this library, you use gradient boosting, uh, anything of that sort. So here, right, I've mentioned just radar, sonar, navigation systems, just a dummy resume at the end of the day. But here, sometimes even your academic projects, you would mention using tools such as XGBoost, Python. The job description would have different tools to what is there in your. You change it with respect to that. Because XGBoost essentially is a gradient boosting model. Tableau and Power BI are essentially the same thing. R and Python are essentially the same. So when you're applying for a specific job, when you look at the resume, when you look at the job description, you change these terms with respect to the job description. Okay. And so in here I mentioned like Six Sigma optimization. Sometimes your job description will have market analysis, it will have customer retention. You change these terms based on that in your academic project. And that's how you catch out of the ATS system. Okay. Let's see if I've. Try to avoid using short forms. I've seen today, I just saw a resume where it used short form as CMN, and I didn't know what CMN is. Recruiter will also ask what CMN is. So try not using it. There are some exceptions to it, like KPI is one. KPI, everyone knows what KPI is. So that's why you keep that in your resume. Think, yeah. Again, talking upon the point that we talked again, all experience is good experience. So basically having your previous experience in this format will help you bag a data science job. You're showing how your previous experience, pushed you to become a data scientist. That's how you should use these points to adhere to that. You can use ChatGPT for it, but the thing with ChatGPT is recently Workday and all, they started integrating these tools called Zero GPT. Okay, which basically like does a scan of your resume and sees what percent of your resume was generated by AI. You kind of have to check that while making your point. Okay. So yeah, we go on next point. This is just like a no-no which I have. I don't use these data sets when you're working with your projects or mentioning it in your resume. They're used so many times that people basically like recruiters and uh, recruiters and interviewers don't value it as much. Okay. A lot of you would have used these data sets, which is fine. Whatever project you're going to do from today onwards, make sure they're not these data sets. Especially the Titanic and heart disease one and the iris one, they're just like overused. Airbnb as well, you can talk about it a lot, but it's just used over and over again, and there's no other talking point associated with it. Try to catch hold of a data set which is not secure, usually from Kaggle. Then you can make some really good insights from it. And if you want, we get a good amount of response essentially from this event. We can conduct a Kaggle competition in class where we show you how to attempt the Kaggle competition. We're not giving you a Kaggle competition. We'll show you a data set which is not among these, and we basically code in class together. You don't have to know coding. We'll show you which aspects of coding that you have to understand. And we run a machine learning model and maybe publish it on Kaggle, put it on your GitHub as well. So it will look good on both spaces. And also maybe create a Tableau dashboard around it or create something called Streamlit. Streamlit is an application where you can use to create like web applications. That's also something which has popped up in the recent past in the job descriptions I've seen. So we can do that in class. Make sure you message us, the people, in the data science club. Yeah, we can do that as well. Yeah, the final section is something which, yeah, your education, you have to mention stuff that is present with your education. Sometimes your job experience is too big and you're not able to include your academic projects, which are very relevant. That's when you include your academic projects. In like that, you remove basically where it's written graduated with honors and include your academic projects there. Give a brief description, and it can be like analyze customer response data with Python and Tableau. That's good enough. Okay. Technical skills. Yeah, this changes with respect to the job. With respect to the job description, I'll show you a live demo of how you apply for jobs by changing this. Certifications has to be in one line again, one or two lines. Make sure that these links basically go towards your LinkedIn. I've seen people mentioning their certification but not linking them. That's not good. Um, remember irrelevant certification. You don't have to mention all the certifications. I think the major ones are your AWS certification if you have one, Azure, the cloud practitioner, or the data solution architect one. Other than that, any kind of certification associated with a course on Coursera. There are some certifications is like what is data science? Don't include those. Those don't make sense. Okay, Python for data science. That makes sense. Okay. Uh, I think that's about covers it. One last thing which I had was if it all see, let's say you created a Git profile, okay, and there's nothing on it. Don't include that. Okay, you created a Kaggle profile. There's nothing on it. Don't include that. So I that's one thing which I've noticed. It doesn't pop up with recruiters, it pops up in interviews where they click your profile and they see that, oh, I see you've linked it here, but there's nothing there. Did you not work on it? Is that question. So that creates a wrong impression. It's better to have nothing than have like it's better not to include than have like an empty page there. Okay. Um, these resources I feel are very overlooked. CMC is one. Book an appointment, just go with whatever resume you have. They will help you a lot, especially with your grammar. There are some small things which people always overlook. You don't have to include what is like a and what's that part of
Goals.
vowels?
Yes.
No, a and the article. Yeah, so don't include those. Don't have to include like dots at the end of your point. Those things, and you don't have to use a lot of adjectives to what you've done. Like one adjective is good enough. Okay? So again, like I'm not a very good person to do that. So use those resources you have on campus. Try to use guest staff. They're usually the people who are in the industry. They're not like MA grads who have come here and they're teaching how to build your resume. So that's something good. This is one center which I've seen which is overlooked, the Business Communication Center. They're in JSOM in Road 2, right? Cross CMC. They're also pretty good. Um, one new thing which has popped up is TalkMate. TalkMate, you can schedule like a one-on-one call with people. So uh, some people have like resume reviews, especially when you want like if you want like very specific like product manager resumes or data engineering resumes. That helps a lot because a lot of them don't have content. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, so we'll just take one more round of questions if anyone has anything. So I didn't know like if you have experience that's not super relevant. Yeah, because if you have a lot of should you figure out that experience and have those projects and stuff. I think it's always good to have that. You can only one small snippet of you can have just the work experience on top, or you could have them then after below and so, but then including your technology, like including the date space we have with that one. So and yeah, basically explaining more about your academic uh, projects with specific terms. So I think that brings up a good point. So for example, if you work for more than 3 years or 2 years, academic projects you can keep it to 1 point each, 1 or 2 points. Like 1 point explaining the project, second point explaining the tool. If you have not worked for a year, like 6 months to a year, or if you have not worked, or if you've just been an intern, that point of time to explain your academic projects more. Include all the keywords there, include tools there. Any other questions? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I just looked it up yesterday, so yeah. It's good to use that as well. It- especially when it's like a shift in your subject, right? It brings up a talking point. So that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Something more kind of certifications we should do that we have data scientist.
Power BI certification helps a lot with BI analyst and data analyst roles. Other than that, even solution architects, the AWS, Azure, one of them is enough. You don't have to do all of them. One of them is good enough.
And one more, I was like, I want to start this IBM Data Science Corporation.
Yeah, unless and until you're finishing the whole thing, I would suggest you not do that. Like so I think when it comes to like data science certifications, unless and until you're doing the AWS data science certification, you have like some certification which is relevant for ML. But that's really tough. And it takes up like 6 months of your time. Not concentrating on anything. Unless you're doing that, I would suggest you don't, because you're doing all of it at school. All the resources you get, I feel are better online. So yeah, that's my two concern. Mm, yeah, if you have space, yes, but it should be in one line. It should yes. So, but it should be in one line. It should not be bullets. So it takes a lot of things. There's not going to be space at that point. Make sure that there's like classes and you just one class. That's a good point. Because people who are changing fields or they're new to the field, having your classes is very important. So advanced deep learning, advanced machine learning, programming programming for data science. You can alter the class name a little to include like keywords like Python if you want to, but I suggest you not to. But yeah, it's good to have those. Yeah. So wherever it's written graduated with honors, right? You remove that and then you put your classes. Yeah. One of the two, either classes or you put the graduated with honors. Don't put like you have a lot of girth in your education, it doesn't look good. Sorry? Yeah, you can just write subject, make sure it's bold, and then have honors. Don't include like course codes and stuff. Just the names are good enough. Yeah. Any other question? Okay. No. So here you can. No, hyperlinks when it comes to. I'm sorry. Hyperlinks you can put. Hmm. No. So like a good check is you would have applied using Workday, right? Like multiple companies use Workday. So if you've done one application through Workday, once you upload your resume, if it is recognizing everything that is there, that means that it's not overflowing the system. Okay, because the same backend is what the ATS uses. Okay. But yeah, I've heard that as well. It's not relevant, but no, you have to include hyperlinks when you, especially because most of they don't even take your resumes these days in job fairs, right? They just give you a QR code and they ask you to upload. So it doesn't make sense that you don't include hyperlinks because the recruiter is not going to go out of the way to type in your profile. That is one thing for sure. No, I think you should use and I've seen like I was in an interview where he was sharing his screen and he had my resume and he clicked on the link. So it's always good to have it.
2 year experience person.
Not much. You can have one academic project, or even if you don't have a section called academic project, you can include it in your education. You can make education more worthier and improve it. Okay.
In place of policies,
Yeah.
there is a section in organization experience in it. Should we have it or it's better to use that space for the professional experience?
Use that space. You kind of preface that you worked in. That's the most important part of it. and you use like data science concepts there, or you use something there that nudged you to take this degree. That's the notion you should be giving. Especially like I'm assuming you're a graduate student, right? But for undergrads, you have to create a story. But for grads, so like that's my suggestion. Uh, all good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Ideally speaking, you would have different format, like different resumes for different roles. Like one for BI and data analyst, one for data scientist, and one for data engineering. Um, but your professional experience shouldn't change as much. It's only the tools that comes with.
Sequence of our experience should not change, right?
No.
The fields we can change at the.
Yeah. So just an example on the top of my head is you would have done analysis on Python or Excel or R, but you would have created like an Airflow pipeline. You emphasize Airflow pipeline more in your data engineering role, and you emphasize Python and R and library data scientist. Data analyst, you use a little bit of Airflow, but more around closer to data scientist, but little away from data. All good. Um, oh wow. Okay, it's like 4-5. We'll come back to the live demo later. So I think I have one question right now is, should I go over like LinkedIn, GitHub, Kaggle, or should I go over how do you apply for a job? Like we'll do that in like we'll basically change these two in form. Like which do you suggest? Like anyone? Okay. Okay. So applying for a job again, networking is king. People, I don't know, but as an immigrant, like there's this stigma against asking your moshi uncle about a job. Through that shit, ask for a job. Okay. Ask for reference, ask for one-on-one times with people who they know in the company. And how you can fit into their team. The conversation you should be having is, oh, that's very interesting. I'm doing relevant coursework. Do you think I'd be a good fit in your company? That's the conversation you should have. Okay. It should not be like, I'm currently like in JSOM and I'm looking for an internship. Yeah, the conversation should be, you should ask them what they do, and then accordingly, that's how networking works, and that is the most important thing. I got I got two calls because of networking, and yeah, again, it was my uncle's friend, someone who I met at this random Deepavali celebration. I went up and talked to him. Okay. Um, Cold emailing always helps. Emails usually are in the LinkedIn description section. People always overlook that. They try to send emails. Before you send an email, if you go to each profile and you look at the description, usually at the end of the description, they would have the email. Try emailing that. Um, Referrals always help. How do you get referrals? I'll talk about it again. Uh, Targeted resumes are very important. How to build a target resume, I'll show you as well. So before we go to this, I'm sure all of you have your phones and you have LinkedIn right now. Let's say you're applying for Capital One. Okay. A lot of you know this method, but I'm just going to preface on how you should do it again. Go to Capital One. It doesn't work well on your laptop. It works well on your phone. Go to Capital One. Go to people section of Capital One. You will see that 134 people have attended University of Dallas. 200 people live in the Dallas metro airport area. Click on that section and select connections to everyone. Okay, everyone. Okay, out of 100 connections that you send, 10 people will accept, 5 people will reply to your chat, and they're the ones who are always willing to give you referrals. Sometimes I've seen it that they put it up in their title itself, BM for referrals. That also helps. But it's a very crude way of saying it, but that's how you network on LinkedIn. Okay. Second thing is Alumni always help. I noticed that the people who always connect with me are alumni. So just talk to alumni, either this school or your previous school. And the way you interact with certain sector of people should always be different. So if you're interacting with someone who's a VP and above, you have to show interest in what they're doing. You cannot ask them for a job. Okay? You ask, I have questions about the field. I'm really interested in it. That's when they reply. If you ask for a job, they're not going to, because they're hiring, they're part of the hiring team. Okay? If it's someone who is 2, 3 years into the job, you can ask them directly, I'm being very blunt. I love the career opportunities at your company, really hoping for a referral. May not be, even try to make it a little more less blunt. I'm looking at career opportunities. This looks like a really good fit. If it looks good for you, please. Okay. And yeah, that's that. And talking to recruiters, I feel messaging and connecting with recruiters doesn't help as much because most recruiters have 20,000 emails in their inbox right now. So they will never reply to yours. That is your point of view. But if they have an email, I've seen like AMD usually recruits every semester. They recruit fall, spring, summer. And if you go to the recruiter website, like to a recruiter's LinkedIn page, in the description, I've seen an email where you can mail asking about the job. In those emails, you ask about the job. You don't ask about whether I can get a referral because they can't refer you. You ask about the job. They will make sure it's clear for you to sit on. I feel like this is very unethical, but like screw that shit. Like it's a bad market. Everyone wants a job. These are just few websites which I found which are very useful where you're creating targeted resumes. I use this one personally, but it's paid. To be honest, like I paid for it and I forgot and the subscription renewed, so that's why I still use it. So we'll do one live demo of this. Okay. And yeah, let's see how it works. So assuming, yeah, everyone can see my screen. So we'll go to, okay, whatever this is, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, it's been recorded. We'll, I don't know the specifics on how we'll share it with everyone, but we'll try to share the recording and the deck as well with everyone. Okay, we'll put it on the website. Yeah. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah. Have a nice day. So, okay. Everyone can see this, right? Like, okay. So what you do is you copy paste the responsibilities in the college page. You don't have to copy paste the about us section. Okay, and resume awarded. So I just put some random PDF resume that I have. Most websites do the same thing. Just do that as well. So this score, right? Like my point of view is it should be about 85. Most of the times it's never so high. It's usually like around 60. Because we have to include certain terms. Okay, so these are the keywords. Okay, I'm going to get little geeky for a second. How many of you have like learned a little bit of NLP or like played with Spacey or NLTK? So what like NLP essentially does is it takes out whatever information is relevant from the whole document. Okay, so 5 years of experience in data science removes all in role with proven track record. Because proven track record doesn't make sense. Okay. You have to look at it from that point of perspective. So this essentially does that, and the ATS software also does that. So that's why I kind of come back to this again and again. So I look at it here, and I look at the things that are important. So GCP is mentioned once. Okay, so I include GCP in my resume. root cause is included. I use include root cause in my resume. Mathematics, computer science are not important because they're just asking for like whoever has a degree in mathematics or computer science. You can just essentially remove that. And sometimes it doesn't mark the words which are important. You have to basically look at them. So sometimes the name of the what is that team is present in the job description, and that adds highlighted a lot. You can remove those as well. But it's good if it's a common term, try to include in your job description. So I changed my resume according to this format. For example, this root cause. So my resume would have. So I have like these filler statements in my resume. Providing senior leadership, product related actionable items to the right product development, process enhancement, infrastructure requirement, positive influences, and integrated marketing monetization. This statement entirely is just to pass the ATS system. Okay. Because when you apply retail, product development, such as customer retention, customer escalation, um, customer lifetime value, CLTV or something. Those things keep popping up. You change your resume to add those. An example is if at all, like again, I'm coming back to the marine engineering point, not the marine, the petrol engineer. He had to track the number of trucks that are going out of his facility. So he had to understand the demand that was coming in at each point in time. He had to include those terms in that point. Okay. Make it a little, it should not be like he was doing like data science as such, but including those, considering these things is something you can include in that point. Okay, so change these points, upload it back again, you get a resume, and then you apply for the job. Okay. Prior to applying for the job, again, go to that company, try to ask for a referral. Keep it like a week max because they use. I've seen it with Walmart. Walmart keeps each posting for 3 days. So just like apply. Apply is most important. So this I feel is all, and whatever is like sometimes show that point, it's on top. Can you see this point called like regularized linear modeling techniques such as elastic and phase property? Change this point to whatever is asked in the resume. If they ask gradient boosting models and remove whatever is present. Again, like worst case, if none of it is possible, that's when you add it in your skills section. You add like whatever is asked. One thing which I've noticed, which recruiters tell me is in the qualification section, if there are 5 points, maybe the first 3 are the ones which are relevant, the last 2 are not, just an added bonus. So concentrate on the first 3 points. So this is like an overarching way of creating targeted resumes for each job. After you create a targeted resume, if you can follow up with the recruiters, that's great. But this is the process I use. It has helped a little, but still it's not as great as it was.
Each job
Little bit. Yeah, like, I have a folder with I think like 150. But it's not as tedious as you think it is. Once you get the flow, kind of adapt to it a lot. The easy apply jobs on LinkedIn usually don't work. They're usually I don't know if you know, but it's only for like full-time jobs. When when an immigrant has to apply for green card, they have certain postings, right? Those are usually the easy apply. Unless and until it's from LinkedIn. Other than that, they're all easy apply. So try to refrain from doing like jobs. Try to go and apply in work area. Like whatever has a link to a tertiary website. Yeah. I think that's like these things I feel are people always miss. So that's why I kind of emphasize on those. Yeah. Any other questions with respect to applying? Yeah.
That was generally
No.
go is at work.
So again, it comes back to the disclaimer that I had in first. Like, I think there's nothing that works and doesn't work. But what I try to do, my personal success is each job has its own resume. When I say it has its own resume, it's not like you're changing the whole resume from that specific. It's tweaking the resume for that job, right? So that resume for that job description has to be above 85. That's just my like that's my process. Yeah. That's like you call you can yeah, so you just email whichever recruiter you like. Usually, preferably university recruiters, it will be given in the job description. If not, you just email that recruiter. 1 out of 10 times they reply back to the relevant person, and that's another thing. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions associated with this? It's a small section, but I feel it's important. When you're applying as well, sometimes it parses, like Workday parses your resume, and then it puts your like, oh, you worked on these things here. But it doesn't take your technical skills. There's another section called tools. So at that point in time, what you do is you copy paste your technical skills and put it in one of your job descriptions. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Um, I think it's been about an hour and 15 minutes. I hope you guys are fine. I know I've been talking for a while now. I don't know. Are you guys fine? So we move on to the next section, or do you have questions about the previous section? Okay. LinkedIn has become like this very important thing right now. It's part of the professional development course for graduate courses essentially, and it's important for undergraduates. Um, don't write things like aspiring enthusiast in this section, your description. Just write the job you want. Okay. Uh, it makes your profile more searchable. Second, and it pops up accordingly as well in the recommended section. Uh, in your contact info, you should include your email ID. Make sure that your resume is in the featured column. I've seen this not being the case for a lot of LinkedIn profiles. You have to make sure that is present. And LinkedIn, you can talk how much ever you want. You can just keep explaining. But the LinkedIn, each the professional experience or project, the first point should be the impact. Again, the first bullet rule that we had in our resume should be the first point. The secondary points can have everything else associated with it. Yeah. So yeah, it should be comprehensive. Try to here it's not include, but try to include pictures that you have taken in your office or during your project, or if any awards. Those things kind of help a lot. You see these skills right here, right? That comes in your skills section later. What I would suggest is you go before you start doing your job search, you go to like multiple jobs already present on LinkedIn, and you can go to the skills section within that job, and then you add the skills that you want. Okay. Once they're in your skills, you have up to 50 skills that you can add in your profile. After that, choose those relevant skills in each of your professional experience. Okay. That's how you that's what I feel is most effective. Sometimes like even in my profile, I have like skills from my mechanical days, which make no sense. You shouldn't have those skills. Like, you're looking for a data science. Try to remove those skills. and fine tune it to the skills that are within the job requirements of whatever jobs you can see on LinkedIn right now. Just seeing if I've forgotten anything. This is something that has popped up in the recent past, creator mode. Creator mode is this mode that you can enable on LinkedIn. I feel that it helps with making your profile more searchable. Okay. It your profile pops up on the top more than a person who is not on creator. And the added benefit of being on creator mode is creating this custom link. So you can link like your GitHub or your personal website or even your link tree, whatever. This is just one thing which I feel you have to do. And also, you also have to uh, continuously post stuff relevant to your field. I don't do that, but I feel that helps as well when getting interviews. So, any questions with respect to LinkedIn? LinkedIn is, I know it's just been 2 slides, but important. Getting those skills within your job description is important, and choosing those skills from other job descriptions is one thing important. The first bullet in your work experience should always be the impact bullet, and after that, you can explain how much ever you want. Having pictures in your job description and academic projects is important. Including GitHub links in your project experience is also good. Add every project you've ever done, but make sure that the top project is not the projects that I've mentioned before. Um, if at all your name is tough to pronounce, for example, my name is Harikrishna Dev, and somehow people here are having it like they try to stop talking to me because my name is too big. That's when you kind of include a nickname. So I go by Harry with people who cannot pronounce my name. You can have that, but once I met a person who was able to pronounce my name and they just frowned upon that. So it has its own trade-offs. So yeah, it's something up to you. Okay. Any other like I've been talking here. Any questions? Yeah.
Then you can see the slides of what would you like to say?
So yeah, LinkedIn Premium is a, if you get that 6 month thing, I suggest you take it when you want to search for a full-time job. Like right now is a good time. I also accept it. Um, you have to be strategic with respect to your email. That's the most important thing. You get every 20 emails, right? So you don't message the recruiter. Message the manager. Manager is respond by it. Um, you have to make sure that your manager is, if he's not posting on LinkedIn at all, or if he's not reposting on LinkedIn at all, that's when you don't email it. At least that he doesn't come on LinkedIn. He just created it once upon a time. So like, that's the trade-offs you have. Sorry?
You're recording of taking what they are planning. Is it is that
Not seeing anything. Yeah, I've seen that it's a feature, right? Like they introduce themselves within that, but I don't see recruiters doing it. Recruiters are not doing it. I suggest you do not do it. Because to be honest, if a recruiter is doing it, then you do it. The recruiter is excited that you did the same feature, and that's actually better. Like she or he would reach out to you more. But if recruiters are not doing it, then
presentation?
no. So it's a again it's something called survival bias. So you've seen that small cohort of people where it worked. Even with respect to the color for resumes, right? Like there was this one case where someone created a resume which looked like Netflix and he got recruited by Netflix. So that's that one case it happened. Even presentations as well. It would have happened one in a million times. So traditional resume always helps.
It is, I think it's not good, but they can just video and introduction. It will give them better idea because they will not able to go to that reading part.
The thi- You're right, but the problem is, um, at the end of the day, even if recruiters say that, they are also traditional in so many ways. So they have to make the radars work right. So they end up going through resumes. They end up looking at like the Workday ATS system and looking at all those ranks and then see which ones are come from referrals, and those are the most important things. So referrals are the most important things networking automation. Yeah, yeah. They do help like more than what I've seen. They at least connect with you. Some of them refer, some of them don't. But yeah. Uh, any other questions? Yeah, we'll so yeah. This is the last section. Creating a portfolio website. It just shows that you know HTML, you know front end. Creating a static website is good enough. Posting it on GitHub pages helps with your interviews, not your like not the ATS. It shows that you know how to work with GitHub. So it's pretty simple. You can just search online. There are like 100 Medium articles and YouTube videos about it. This website you can download ready-made websites, and you can just change your names with respect to that. So and why I like this website, it's called HTML5 is because the web pages are what do you say? Um, they're optimized for every size. So your phone, your iPad, your Mac, your laptop. So that's good. Netlify is something I've seen in the recent past. You can create it using R and post it on Netlify. Wix, WordPress, and Canvas, and these are just other places where you just have to type. It's like creating a Word document and deploying it. But yeah, GitHub pages, I would suggest you take half a day essentially. You can create the whole website if you have a basic understanding of HTML. If you don't have a basic understanding of HTML, put the whole code into ChatGPT. ChatGPT will fix the code for you and should do it back. Essentially, change the words inside of it and give it to you back. So this is a portfolio website of a person. It's tough to create this, but this is how it looks. It's good when you're having interviews, but not when you're talking to a recruiter because they will not look at your website. That's the QR code for this website. So there are broadly there are two types of roles I feel we most of us come under, but they are not must have but good to have. So if you're a data scientist or a data analyst or a senior data analyst, I would suggest you have GitHub and Google or one of the two. And if you are a BI analyst, if you're looking for BI analyst roles, then having a Tableau public is good. And Medium is, I've seen it works with product managers. So again, GitHub shows that you know how to code. And there is this bar in GitHub that against your profile, which shows the number of commits that you've made. Software engineers are obsessed with it. So software engineers converted into ML engineers and data scientists are obsessed with it. But people who are essentially data scientists from the first are not active. But it's good to have. You would have already done so many assignments right now. If you have not done any assignments, go to Kaggle, copy the assignment. I just said copy it, but like essentially take that assignment, look at how it's coded, and then do the whole thing again and upload it on GitHub. Each repository, there should be your GitHub should have in and around 6+ repositories. That is the ideal number. If it's anything below 6, it doesn't look good. Kaggle as well, if you have more, like less than 5 or book submissions, then it's not good. Have more than that. If not, don't include that. I think that's my point. GitHub or Kaggle. Tableau as well, you should have like at least 4 to 5 dashboards public. And you can add like ML tools within the dashboard to show as a BI analyst that you know ML. And it's a talking point in interviews again. This landing page in GitHub is important. People keep forgetting it. It's easy to make just search for GitHub landing pages. If you're not able to do it, just contact me. I can help you with this. Very simple to make. Like barely 5 minutes. Create this landing page. make sure all of this information here as well is there in your GitHub and the picture as well. Good to have your own picture, but I've seen software engineers who are highly committed not have their own picture on software. There's a pinned section here. So pinned section is you can have up to 6 pinned repositories. So try to keep at least 4 pinned repositories there. Yeah. This is a profile of a Kaggle grandmaster. So essentially, keep forgetting to ask this. How many of you know what Kaggle is? So yeah, like a lot of you know, but just to preface on it, like Kaggle is just a website which is owned by Google. And there are like multiple competitions. You can create your own notebooks. You can upload your own data sets or use other data sets and create your own notebooks. And you can write code. It has like certain amount of compute power that you can use. So this is so there are so like once you've like done like won so many competitions or created so many notebooks, it becomes something called a grandmaster. This is a grandmaster profile. You don't have to be like this. But making sure you have like certain amount of code, certain amount of environment is good. And being part of discussion with that. Data sets is fine. You don't have to be perfect. But at least like 10 to 12 code here, maybe discussions maybe a little. If it's not that, don't include it. But Kaggle is good to have. A lot of people from NVIDIA are recruited from Kaggle. And even there's another company called H2O.ai. They create these open source libraries. They're also recruited from here for pretty good salaries. Tableau Public is also another one. Try to create at least 4 to 5 dashboards. Here you can show your variety with respect to domain, and it helps. I think Tableau is a must-have for BI analysts. Please keep this in mind. It shows that you know Tableau. It's pretty easy to make them as well. Four projects. It should basically, when you look at it from a computer screen, right? That's all. Medium is something which is new, not required. Product managers like Medium articles. Data scientists as well like Medium articles. It shows that you have storytelling abilities, but not a must. If you want you to start, it's not. It's fine. I think that's about it with respect to my presentation. If you have any other questions, then you can ask me, or we can discuss. Yeah. Sorry. Last question. I do resume reviews as well. So this is the QR code you can use to schedule a resume review with me. Or else it's on my LinkedIn profile. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you for your time. I didn't ask if anyone has questions online, but so right now we are looking at so we want to conduct more group activities and maybe get we're not going to do AWS stuff. I think that's important. Like data science club, so it is going to be creating notebooks, understanding models, interacting of that sort. But also like SQL is very important. Maybe a little bit of SQL. Yeah, but even as a data scientist, right, 60% of your job is in SQL. But no, but we will be doing a lot of modeling, hopefully. I think ML is most important. 90% of the jobs only require ML knowledge. We'll try to cover ML topics. I've seen a lot of people don't know ML topics and they're really confused on where to start because there's a lot of code. We try to do ML and deep learning and Yeah, we do. Thinking of it, it depends on whether we could get a room and
Change the background, right?
um, as of now, I think unless and until you see a member only event, you can come to all the events. I think that's yeah. As of now, last semester we didn't send any emails.
Because there is found this club and then they send it.
So
Right.
okay.
But they will not get acknowledged.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not going to lie. It would be great if the president and vice president.
In the mindset to they come with it.
Yeah, that's how we sent. Yeah, yeah. We'll broadcast. Last semester we didn't have anything. Yeah, but we have like multiple broadcast emails we have to do. But yeah, like we will do that this time. Yeah. But that's a good point. Like people always